The massive chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than most city blocks on Earth. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top on humid days. Today, representatives from 47 different species filled the thousands of seats arranged in circular rows. Each species had its own section, with environmental controls adjusted to their needs. Some breathed methane, others needed water tanks, and a few floated in zero-gravity bubbles. At the center of it all stood a single human. Ambassador Chen kept her hands clasped behind her back. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, with gray streaking through her black hair. Her dark suit looked plain compared to the colorful robes, armor, and biosuits worn by the alien representatives around her, but her eyes remained steady as she faced the crowd. "The evidence has been presented," boomed Admiral Zektor of the Korvax hegemony. The alien stood 15 feet tall, covered in scales that shifted from purple to green depending on the light. His 4 arms gestured dramatically as he spoke. "Humanity has violated our agreements. They have taken 3 systems in the outer verge that were marked for future Korvax expansion." Chen waited for the translator in her ear to finish. The device turned the Admiral's grinding, clicking language into English. "Those systems were empty," she said calmly. Her voice carried through the chamber's perfect acoustics. No one lived there. No one had claimed them. "We followed all protocols for new colony establishment." "That is not the point." Another voice rose from the crowd. This time it was Representative Volux from the Etherian Collective. The jellyfish-like being pulsed with orange light as it spoke. "The Korvax marked those systems in their expansion plans 200 years ago. You knew this." "Plans are not claims," Chen replied. "The galactic law is clear. Empty systems belong to whoever settles them first. We settled them. We built homes there. Human families live there now. Children have been born there." The chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of species talked at once, their translators creating a chaos of overlapping voices. Some supported humanity's position, but most seemed angry. Admiral Zektor raised all 4 of his arms. The noise slowly died down. "The Coalition has discussed this matter," he said. The Coalition meant the 12 species that followed the Korvax lead. They controlled the largest military force in known space. "We demand humanity withdraw from all 3 systems within 10 standard days." Chen didn't flinch. "And if we refuse? Then you will face the combined fleet of the Coalition." Zektor's scales shifted to a deep red color. Among his people, this meant serious threat. 10,000 ships, Ambassador. Your entire navy has, 500 vessels? Perhaps 600 if you recall all your exploration ships. A few laughs echoed through the chamber. Everyone knew humanity's fleet was small. Humans had only been in space for 200 years. Most species had been traveling the stars for millennia. "I need to consult with Earth," Chen said. "You have 1 day to respond," Zektor announced. "The Coalition fleet is already gathering at our border stations." Chen nodded once, then turned to leave. As she walked toward the exit, she heard whispers following her. Some aliens felt sorry for humanity. Others thought the humans were foolish to challenge the Coalition. A few wondered if Earth would simply surrender. The doors sealed behind her with a soft hiss. Chen's assistant, a young man named David Park, waited in the hallway. His face was pale. "Ambassador, I monitored everything. This is bad." Chen started walking toward their offices. Her shoes clicked against the polished floor. "Send a priority message to Earth. Full encryption. Tell them the Korvax have made their move." "Should I request emergency military consultation?" David asked, hurrying to keep up with her short but quick steps. "No," Chen said. "Request activation of Protocol 7. David stopped walking. "Protocol 7? But that's..." He paused. "Ambassador, I don't have clearance to know what that means. You don't need to know. Just send it." They reached the human diplomatic offices. The space was small compared to other species areas, just a few rooms with basic equipment. Chen went to her desk and started recording a message for Earth's leadership. She explained the Coalition's ultimatum and the Council's mood. She kept her report short and clear. Within 3 hours, Earth responded. The message was even shorter than Chen's report. Just 5 words. "Protocol 7 is now active." The next morning, Chen returned to the council chamber. Every seat was filled. News of the confrontation had spread across the galactic network. Some representatives had traveled all night to witness what might be humanity's humiliation or destruction. Admiral Zektor stood at the speaker's platform. His scales rippled with what his species considered anticipation. Ambassador Chen, does humanity have a response? Chen walked to the center of the chamber. She seemed even smaller than before, surrounded by thousands of alien eyes. We do, she said. Earth has considered your demands, and? Sektor leaned forward. We decline to abandon our colonies, Chen said simply. The families living there will not be moved. The chamber exploded again. This time the noise was louder. Some representatives stood up in shock. Others made gestures that for their species meant disbelief or amazement at human stupidity. You choose war? Sektor's voice cut through the noise. You choose to face 10,000 ships? We choose to defend our people, Chen replied. As any of you would. Your defense will fail. Sektor's scales were now bright red. The coalition fleet will arrive at your border in 30 standard days. I suggest you use that time to evacuate your colonies. It is the only mercy we will show. Chen tilted her head slightly. 30 days? That's very considerate. It will give us time to prepare an appropriate response. Something in her tone made Sektor pause. The human didn't sound frightened. She didn't sound angry. She sounded confident? What response could you possibly prepare? Asked the Etherian representative. Your entire fleet couldn't stop even 1,000 of our ships. We'll send what's necessary, Chen said. She turned to address the entire council. The coalition wants to make an example of humanity, to show that we're too small, too young, too weak to stand against you. But you've forgotten something important. What have we forgotten? Sektor demanded. Humans don't fight the way you expect, Chen said. We never have. When we were stuck on one planet, we learned to do more with less. We learned that the biggest army doesn't always win. Sometimes one person with the right tool at the right moment changes everything. She started walking toward the exit. 30 days, Admiral. We'll meet your fleet at the border. With what ships? Sektor called after her. Chen paused at the door. She looked back over her shoulder. Ship, she said. Singular. We'll send one ship. The laughter that followed her out of the chamber was the loudest sound yet. Representatives from dozens of species found the idea hilarious. One ship against 10,000? The humans had clearly lost their minds. Only a few noticed that Chen had been smiling as she left. In the Coalition's command center, Admiral Sektor met with his fellow commanders. The room was filled with holographic displays showing fleet movements. Thousands of ships were already gathering at staging points. The humans have gone insane, said Commander Thix of the Morvac Defense Force. The insectoid aliens' compound eyes reflected the displays around them. One ship? It must be a joke. Or a surrender vessel, suggested Captain Yolan of the Berexi Navy. Perhaps they realize fighting is pointless. Sektor studied the tactical displays. Perhaps. But something bothers me. The human ambassador showed no fear. None at all. Humans are known for irrational bravery, Thix said. They call it courage, but it's really just failure to understand danger. Maybe, Sektor said. He pulled up data on humanity's known fleet. 500 ships, most of them small. None that could stand against even one coalition battleship. But they survived their first contact with the Ravagers. They won their border war with the Crimson Swarm. Both times they were outnumbered. Lucky victories, Yolan said. Flukes. Sektor's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. Perhaps. But assign extra reconnaissance to our forward positions. I want to know the moment any human ship appears. You're worried about one ship? Thix made a sound like laughter. I'm worried about what humans think one ship can do, Sektor replied. Because they've never been stupid, just different. And different in war can be dangerous. Space at the border between human territory and coalition space was empty, except for stars. No planets, no asteroids, just vacuum stretching for light years in every direction. It was the perfect place for a battle. No civilians to worry about. No worlds to damage. Just open space where fleets could move freely. The coalition armada arrived first. 10,000 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. The sight would have terrified any enemy. Korvac's battleships, each one 3 miles long, formed the center. Etherian carriers, looking like giant jellyfish made of metal and energy, floated on the flanks. Morvac destroyers, built like enormous wasps, buzzed between the larger vessels. Ships from all 12 coalition species created a wall of metal and weapons that stretched across thousands of miles of space. Admiral Sektor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant Claw. The ship was the pride of the Korvac's fleet, bristling with weapons that could crack moons in half. Around him, his officers worked at their stations running final checks on all systems. "Admiral," called his sensor officer, a younger Korvax whose scales were still bright with youth. "All ships report ready. Weapons charged, shields at maximum. No sign of human vessels." Zektor checked the time. "They have 6 hours left before the deadline expires. Should we move forward?" asked Commander Thix from his own ship. The insectoid's image appeared on a screen near Zektor. "Press into their territory?" "No," Zektor said. "We wait. Let them come to us. I want to see this one ship they promised." Hours passed. The Coalition fleet held position. Thousands of sensor arrays scanned space in every direction. They could detect a grain of sand moving at high speed from 1,000,000 miles away, but they found nothing. Then, with just minutes left before the deadline, alarms sounded. "Contact," the sensor officer announced. "Single vessel dropping out of FTL. Distance 500,000 kilometers." On screen, Zektor ordered. The main display lit up. A single human ship floated alone in the vast emptiness. Compared to the Coalition fleet, it looked like a toy. The vessel was maybe 2 kilometers long, shaped like a smooth cylinder with various instruments and arrays attached to its hull. The name painted on its side read, "Ewan's Prometheus." Silence filled the bridge. Then someone started laughing. Soon, laughter spread across the communication channels as officers on other ships saw the same image. "They actually did it." Commander Thix buzzed with amusement. "They sent one ship. It's not even a warship. Look at the configuration. It's a research vessel." Zektor didn't laugh. He studied the ship carefully. "Scan it full spectrum. I want to know everything about that vessel." The scans came back quickly. "Standard human construction," the sensor officer reported. "Fusion reactors for power. Basic shields. We're detecting..." "This is odd. Very few weapons. Just some point defense lasers and a small missile bay. Most of the ship appears to be laboratories and sensor equipment." "It's a science ship," Thix said. "They sent a science ship to face our fleet." "Have they surrendered?" "Open a channel," Zektor ordered. The communication screen changed. A human woman appeared sitting in a captain's chair. She looked to be in her 40s with short blonde hair and bright green eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform with captain's insignia. Behind her, Zektor could see other humans working at various stations. They didn't look like military officers. They looked like scientists. "Admiral Zektor," the woman said with a slight smile. "I'm Captain Sarah Mitchell of the UNS Prometheus. I've been sent to respond to your ultimatum." "Captain Mitchell," Zektor said slowly. "Are you here to surrender?" "To negotiate. Because if you're here to fight, I should warn you that your single ship faces 10,000. "Oh, I'm aware of the numbers," Mitchell said cheerfully. She seemed completely relaxed, like she was having coffee with friends. "Very impressive fleet you've assembled. Must have taken considerable effort to coordinate so many ships." "Captain," Zektor leaned forward. "I respect courage, even foolish courage. But this is madness. Your ship couldn't survive even one volley from my fleet. Surrender now, agree to evacuate the colonies, and you can leave safely." Mitchell tilted her head. "That's very generous, Admiral. But I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, Earth sent me here to give you a demonstration." "A demonstration of what?" "Of why threatening humanity is a very bad idea," Mitchell said. Her smile never wavered. "May I approach to optimal demonstration range?" "I promise we won't fire any weapons without warning." Zektor's officers looked at him with confusion. Some were still trying not to laugh. The human ship was asking permission to come closer, like a mouse asking to approach a pack of lions. "You may approach to 100,000 kilometers, Zektor said. "Any closer and we'll open fire." "Fair enough," Mitchell said. The channel closed. The Prometheus moved forward slowly. No threatening moves, no raised shields, no weapons charging. It simply drifted closer until it reached the specified distance, then stopped. Communication channels between Coalition ships buzzed with activity. "It's a trick," Captain Yolan of the Berexi said. "They must have some kind of bomb." "A planet cracker, maybe?" "Our scans show nothing," another captain replied. "No antimatter, no exotic particles, no unusual energy readings." "Maybe they want to talk," suggested someone else. "Show us scientific data about why they need those colonies." Commander Thix appeared on Zektor's screen again. "This is embarrassing, Admiral. The entire galaxy is watching. We're being made to look like fools, hesitating before one small ship." Zektor was about to respond when his communication officer spoke up. "Admiral, the human ship is signaling again." Mitchell appeared on screen once more. This time she was standing, and behind her, Zector could see humans working with some kind of equipment he didn't recognize. "Admiral Zector, before we begin, I want to be very clear," Mitchell said. Her cheerful tone had become more serious. "What you're about to witness is not an attack. It's a demonstration. No one will be harmed. But I need you to understand that we could harm you if we chose to." "You're threatening us?" Zector's scales shifted to an angry red. "One ship threatens 10,000? "Not threatening," Mitchell said. "Educating. You see, Admiral, humanity has been very busy for the last decade. We knew this day would come. Someone would look at us, see a young species with a small fleet, and think we were easy prey. So we prepared something special." She nodded to someone off screen. "We're deploying the demonstration device now." A port opened on the Prometheus's hull. Something emerged. It was small, maybe 3 meters across. A perfect sphere that looked like it was made of polished black metal. It floated away from the human ship, moving slowly into the space between the two forces. "Admiral," the sensor officer's voice was sharp with confusion. "That object, I can't get proper readings on it. Our sensors they're showing impossible data." "Explain," Zector demanded. "The sphere appears to be there and not there simultaneously. Its mass readings keep changing. Sometimes it registers as having the mass of a small moon, sometimes no mass at all. The computer can't make sense of it." On the screen, Mitchell smiled again. "That, Admiral, is what we call a paradox engine. It's taken us 10 years to build 12 of them. This is number 7. What does it do?" Zector asked. "It changes the rules," Mitchell said simply. "Watch." The sphere pulsed once with a light that wasn't quite light. It was as if space itself blinked. Then around the sphere, reality began to bend. Not just light bending like near a black hole. Reality itself seemed to twist. "Admiral!" The sensor officer's voice was now panicked. "There's a bubble expanding from the sphere. Everything inside it is wrong." "Wrong how?" "I don't know how to explain it. The laws of physics aren't working correctly inside that bubble." Mitchell's voice came through the communication channel. "Don't worry, we're keeping the bubble small for now. Just about 1 kilometer in radius. But watch this." An old satellite floated near the bubble's edge, probably debris from some ancient battle. As the bubble expanded to encompass it, the satellite began to change. It aged 1,000 years in seconds, rust spreading across its surface, metal crumbling to dust. Then just as quickly it reversed. The satellite became new again, then newer than new until it looked like it had just been built. Then it split into 2 satellites. Then 4, then 8. Then they all merged back into one. "That's impossible," breathed someone on the bridge. "Inside the bubble, cause and effect become flexible," Mitchell explained. "We can age things, restore them, duplicate them, merge them. We can make matter behave in ways your science says is impossible." "It's an illusion," Commander Thix said over the fleet channel. "It has to be. Some kind of holographic trick. Would you like to test that theory?" Mitchell asked. Apparently, she had been listening to their fleet communications. "Admiral Zector, choose one of your smaller vessels. Something unmanned if you have it." "We'll demonstrate on that." Zector hesitated. If this was real. But it couldn't be real. Could it? "Probe vessel 779, he said finally. "Move it to the edge of the bubble." A small reconnaissance probe, about the size of a shuttle, moved forward under remote control. As it touched the bubble's edge, everyone watched in horrific fascination. The probe stretched like rubber, then compressed into a point, then existed in 12 places at once, creating a circle of identical probes. The bridge of the dominant claw remained silent for several long moments. Every officer stared at their screens, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The golden probe floated among the fleet like a warning, its transformed structure proof that what they had seen was no hologram. Admiral Zector's 4 hands gripped the arms of his command chair. His scales flickered through colors as his mind raced. Around him, he could feel the fear beginning to spread through his crew. These were veteran soldiers who had fought in dozens of battles, but they had never faced anything like this. "All ships," Zector spoke into the fleet communication channel. "Hold position. Do not fire unless ordered." "Admiral," Commander Thix's image appeared on a side screen. The insectoid's compound eyes glittered with agitation. "We should attack now before they can expand that bubble. Overwhelming firepower before they can react. And if they have 12 of these devices hidden around the galaxy?" Zector asked. "What if destroying this ship triggers all of them?" On the main screen, Captain Mitchell waited patiently. She had returned to her chair and appeared to be drinking something from a cup. Tea, maybe. The casual gesture made the situation even more unsettling. Captain Mitchell, Zektor said, you claim this device can control reality itself. That's impossible. The laws of physics don't work that way. Mitchell set down her cup. You're right. The laws of physics don't work that way. That's the whole point. The paradox engine doesn't follow the laws of physics. It rewrites them. How? This came from Captain Yolan of the Berexi, who had patched into the communication. How could you possibly create such a thing? Mitchell smiled. That's the interesting part. About 10 years ago, our scientists discovered something unique about human biology. Do you know what quantum flux radiation is? Several officers on the bridge looked confused, but the science officer spoke up. It's theoretical radiation that exists at the quantum level. It should be lethal to any organic life form. The energy would tear apart molecular bonds instantly. Should be lethal, yes, Mitchell agreed. Every species we've encountered can't survive exposure to it. Even tiny amounts are fatal. Except for humans. She stood up and walked closer to the screen. Our sun produces quantum flux radiation. Just small amounts, but it's been bathing Earth for billions of years. Life on our planet evolved with it. We never knew we were special until we met other species and realized they couldn't even visit Earth's surface without heavy shielding. That's impossible, the science officer said. No life could evolve with quantum flux exposure. And yet here we are, Mitchell said. This immunity let us study quantum mechanics in ways no other species could. We could directly observe quantum phenomena without dying. We could experiment with forces that would kill anyone else. And eventually, we learned to manipulate those forces. She gestured to someone off screen. The black sphere pulsed again. This time, 3 coalition fighters that had drifted too close to the bubble suddenly froze in place. Not damaged, not destroyed, just completely motionless. Time dilation, Mitchell explained. Those fighters are experiencing 1 second for every hour that passes outside the bubble. To them, nothing has happened. But they'll stay frozen until we release them. Return our fighters, Zektor demanded. Of course, Mitchell said. The bubble contracted slightly and the fighters suddenly jerked back into motion. Their pilots' confused voices filled the communication channels as they tried to understand what had happened. This is all very impressive, Zektor said, trying to keep his voice steady. But you're still one ship. Even with this device, you can't be everywhere at once, can't we? Mitchell asked. She took out a small tablet and showed it to the screen. On it was a star map of the galaxy. 12 red dots were scattered across it. These are the locations of our other paradox engines. Each one is automated, hidden, and waiting for our signal. One is currently 3 light-years from the Korvax homeworld. Another is near the Etherian Collective's capital station. We have one close to every major coalition world. Gasps echoed across the bridge. If this was true, you're holding our worlds hostage, Zektor said. No, Mitchell replied firmly. We're ensuring our survival. You brought 10,000 ships to threaten 3 small colonies with maybe 50,000 humans total. You wanted to make an example of us. Instead, we're showing you that size doesn't always matter. That having the biggest fleet doesn't make you invincible. She paused, then continued. We don't want to use these devices as weapons. We really don't. But we will protect our people. Those colonies you want us to abandon? They're homes to families who have nowhere else to go. Children who were born there. Scientists studying unique phenomena. We won't let you destroy that just because you had plans for those systems. This technology, Captain Yolan spoke up, it could destroy the galaxy. It's too dangerous to exist. Probably, Mitchell agreed. That's why we've been very careful with it. Only 12 devices exist. Only a handful of humans know how they really work. And we have safeguards in place to prevent misuse. What kind of safeguards? Zektor asked. The kind that ensure mutual destruction if anyone tries to take them by force, Mitchell said. Her cheerful demeanor faded for a moment, showing steel underneath. Each device is linked to the others. Try to capture one, they all detonate. Try to reverse engineer one, they all detonate. Kill the human operators, they all detonate. And when I say detonate, I don't mean explode. I mean they expand their bubbles to maximum size and randomize everything inside. The threat hung in the air like a physical weight. Commander Thix's voice crackled over the fleet channel. She's insane. The humans are insane. They've built doomsday weapons, have we? Mitchell asked. Or have we built the ultimate defensive system? We can't conquer anyone with these devices. They're not mobile. They can't be used for offensive operations. They just sit there ensuring that no one can conquer us either. The sphere pulsed again. This time something remarkable happened. A small asteroid, maybe 50 meters across, appeared near the bubble. It hadn't been there before. It simply existed now where nothing had existed before. We can create matter, Mitchell said. We can destroy it. We can reshape it. Inside the bubble, we are effectively gods, and we chose to show you this rather than use it without warning. Think about that, Admiral. We could have simply activated the device near your homeworld and held your entire species hostage. Instead, we're talking. Zektor stood up from his chair. His full height made him tower over his officers, but right now he felt very small. What do you want? Simple, Mitchell said. Leave our colonies alone. Stop trying to intimidate humanity. Treat us as equals, not as prey. In return, we never use these devices except in defense. They stay hidden, silent, just insurance against extinction. And if someone else threatens you, another species not part of the coalition, then we deal with them the same way we're dealing with you, Mitchell said. We show them what we can do and ask them to reconsider. You can't threaten the entire galaxy into leaving you alone, Zektor said. We're not threatening anyone, Mitchell replied. We're demonstrating capability. There's a difference. A threat says do this or else. A demonstration says this is what we can do, now let's talk. We're still talking, aren't we? The Admiral's scales shifted to a deep blue, the color of deep thought among his people. His officers watched him carefully. Whatever he decided would affect the entire coalition, maybe the entire galaxy. I need to consult with the coalition leadership, Zektor said finally. Of course, Mitchell said. We'll wait here. The bubble will remain active but contained. No one else needs to be affected. Take your time, Admiral. This decision is important. The channel closed, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. Through the viewports, the tiny human ship floated serenely, its impossible device warping space around it. One ship had indeed come to meet 10,000. And somehow the one ship was winning. Admiral, his first officer spoke quietly. What do we do? Zektor looked at the tactical displays showing his massive fleet. All that firepower, all those ships, and they were effectively useless against an enemy that could rewrite reality itself. We do what warriors do when faced with the impossible, Zektor said. We adapt. Open channels to all coalition leadership. We need to discuss terms. Commander Thix's voice was sharp. You're surrendering? I'm being practical, Zektor replied. Would you prefer I order an attack and risk having your homeworld trapped in a bubble where time runs backwards? Thix had no answer to that. As Zektor began contacting the coalition leadership, he found himself thinking about humanity differently. They were young, yes. Their fleet was small, yes. But they had done something no other species had managed. They had found a way to ensure their survival not through massive armadas or conquered territories, but through pure, terrifying innovation. The humans had changed the game entirely. And everyone in the galaxy would have to adapt to the new rules. On the Prometheus, Captain Mitchell returned to her tea. Her crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the bubble and the coalition fleet. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Captain, her science officer said, the coalition ships are powering down weapons. Good, Mitchell replied. Let's hope they're smart enough to take the offer. The emergency session of the coalition leadership took place in virtual space. 12 figures appeared as holograms in a shared digital environment, each from their respective command ships or homeworlds. Admiral Zektor stood in the center, his forearms clasped behind his back as he finished explaining what they had witnessed. This is preposterous, buzzed High Chancellor Vrix of the Morvac. Swarm. The insectoid leader's wings vibrated with agitation. One small species cannot hold the entire galaxy hostage with 12 devices. It goes against everything we know about power structures. What we know is apparently wrong, said Prime Etherean, flowing thoughts like water. The jellyfish-like being's translucent form pulsed with worried colors. If these paradox engines are real, conventional military power means nothing. If they're real, emphasized War Master Kesh of the Brutal Fang. The wolf-like alien showed his teeth. This could all be an elaborate deception. Holograms and trickery. The transformed probe says otherwise, Zektor said. Our scientists have examined it. Every atom has been converted to gold. The molecular structure is perfect. No known technology could do that. Then we destroy them, Kesh growled. A simultaneous strike on all 12 devices. How? Asked Flowing Thoughts Like Water. We don't know where they all are. And Captain Mitchell claims they're linked. Destroy one, they all activate. She could be lying, Vrick said. She could be, Zektor agreed. But are you willing to risk your homeworld to find out? Silence filled the virtual space. Each leader was running the same calculations. The risk was too great. Even if there was only a 10% chance the humans were telling the truth, that was a 10% chance of total annihilation. We need more information, said Elder Yasnos of the Berexi Republic. The ancient being's voice carried the weight of centuries. Bring the human captain into this discussion. Let us question her directly. Zektor nodded and sent the invitation. Moments later, Captain Mitchell appeared in the virtual space. She looked around at the assembled leaders with polite interest. Impressive setup, she said. I assume you have questions? Many questions, Fricks buzzed angrily. Starting with how you expect us to believe that humanity, a species that only achieved faster than light travel 2 centuries ago, has developed technology that breaks the laws of physics. Mitchell shrugged. I don't expect you to believe anything. That's why we demonstrated it. Seeing is believing, as humans say. These paradox engines, Flowing Thoughts Like Water asked. How many humans know how to build them? 17, Mitchell answered immediately. All of them are under constant protection on Earth. The knowledge is not recorded anywhere digitally, only in their minds. 17 people, Kesh snarled. We could eliminate 17 people. You could try, Mitchell said calmly. But the moment any of them die under suspicious circumstances, or even natural ones at this point, all 12 devices activate automatically. We call it a dead man's switch. You've thought of everything, Elder Yasnos observed. We've had 10 years to think, Mitchell replied. We knew this day would come. When we started colonizing worlds, we knew eventually someone would try to stop us. You have to understand, we've been the underdog our entire history. On Earth, smaller nations survived by being too dangerous to attack, not by being strong enough to win. We just applied that principle to space. This technology, Zektor said, could it be used for peaceful purposes? Mitchell's expression brightened. Absolutely. We've been experimenting with small-scale applications, medical uses, for instance. Inside a controlled bubble, we can reverse cellular damage, cure diseases that are otherwise fatal, even reverse aging to a degree. Manufacturing becomes almost trivial when you can rearrange matter at the atomic level. Then why keep it secret? Flowing Thoughts Like Water asked. Why not share this with the galaxy? Because the first thing someone would do is weaponize it, Mitchell said bluntly. Look at your first instinct. You brought 10,000 warships to threaten 3 colonies. Your immediate response to learning about the paradox engines is to figure out how to destroy or control them. Can you honestly say that if we had offered this technology peacefully, it wouldn't have been taken from us and used for conquest? The leaders exchanged glances or whatever their species did to communicate silently. She had a point, so what now? Vrix asked. Humanity holds the galaxy hostage forever? No, Mitchell said. We hold 12 defensive positions that ensure our survival. We don't want to control anyone. We don't want to conquer anyone. We just want to live in peace and explore the universe like everyone else. The paradox engines change nothing except making it impossible to destroy us. You say they're defensive, Kesh growled. But what stops you from building more? From making them mobile? From becoming conquerors yourselves? Mitchell was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Nothing, technically. We could do all of that. But we won't. Why should we believe you? Because we're having this conversation, Mitchell said. If we wanted to conquer, would we reveal our capability like this? Would we warn you? Or would we just appear over your worlds one day and demand surrender? The fact that we're talking, negotiating, showing you what we can do instead of just doing it, that should tell you everything about our intentions. She makes a valid point, Elder Yasno said to the others. A species planning conquest doesn't usually announce their superweapon in advance. There's something else, Mitchell added. The technology has limitations. The bubbles require enormous power to maintain. The devices can't move faster than light. They take years to build and calibrate. This isn't something we can mass produce or deploy quickly. The 12 we have are the result of a decade of work by our best scientists. Building more would take similar time and resources. So you're vulnerable between the bubbles, Kesh noted, his predator instinct searching for weakness. Yes, Mitchell admitted freely. Ships traveling between star systems, colonies far from the devices, exploration vessels, they're all as vulnerable as ever. But Earth isn't. Our 3 colonies aren't. And if you destroy our vulnerable ships and people, the 12 devices activate. Mutual assured destruction. Zektor's scale shifted through several colors as he processed this. You've created a stalemate. We've created stability, Mitchell corrected. Wars happen when one side thinks they can win. We've made it so no one can win a war against humanity, not without losing everything. And what about wars between other species? Vrix asked. What if the Korvax and Etherians fight? Do your devices activate? No, Mitchell said. Your conflicts are your own. We won't interfere unless someone tries to drag us into it or the conflict threatens our worlds. We're not the galaxy's police force. We're just ensuring our own survival. The coalition leaders began discussing among themselves, sometimes forgetting Mitchell could hear them. The debate was heated. Some wanted to call the humans bluff. Others wanted to retreat immediately. Most fell somewhere in between, recognizing that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. Finally, Zektor addressed Mitchell directly. Captain, we need time to discuss this. Will you give us one day? Of course, Mitchell said. We'll maintain position. The bubble will stay contained to its current size. No aggressive moves from either side. Her image vanished from the virtual space, leaving the 12 leaders alone. This changes everything. Flowing thoughts like water said. If the humans can do this, what about other species? What if everyone develops similar technology? Then war becomes impossible. Elder Yasno said thoughtfully. Perhaps that's not a bad thing. War has determined the strong from the weak for millions of years, Kesh argued. Without it, how do we evolve? How do we improve? Maybe, Zektor said slowly, we improve by finding better ways than war. The debate continued for hours. Back in real space, the 2 forces waited. 10,000 ships faced one, but the one had made the 10,000 irrelevant. On the Prometheus, Captain Mitchell received an encrypted message from Earth. She read it in private, then deleted it. Only she knew the full truth about the paradox engines. Only she knew that Earth's greatest gamble wasn't the technology itself, but whether anyone would call their bluff. She returned to the bridge and looked at the massive coalition fleet on the display. How are our guests doing? Lots of encrypted communications, her communications officer reported. They're debating heavily. Some ships are requesting permission to power up weapons, but their leadership is denying those requests. Good, Mitchell said. Let them think. The longer they think, the more real it becomes in their minds. Captain, her science officer said quietly, what if they attack anyway? Mitchell looked at the young man. He was one of the few who knew the partial truth, though not the whole truth. Then we activate the contingency and hope it's enough. Will it be? Mitchell didn't answer. She couldn't. Because the truth was she didn't know. No one did. They were all gambling on fear being stronger than curiosity, on the threat being more powerful than the reality. The waiting continued. In the vast emptiness of space, 10,000 ships and one small vessel faced each other, while the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The age of conventional warfare was ending. The age of fear-based peace was beginning. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, 11 other paradox engines waited silently, their existence both real and unreal. 3 days after the confrontation at the border, Ambassador Chen walked back into the Galactic Council chambers. The vast hall that had been filled with hostile voices now buzzed with nervous whispers. Every representative watched her approach the central platform, their various sensory organs tracking her movement. Admiral Zektor was already there, his massive form standing beside the speaker's podium. His scales had settled into a neutral green, the color of resignation among his people. The coalition fleet had withdrawn from the border after 20 hours of debate. No shots had been fired. The crisis was over, but the implications were just beginning. The coalition formally withdraws all claims to the 3 systems in the outer verge, Zektor announced. His voice carried no anger, just tired acceptance. Humanity may keep their colonies, Chen nodded respectfully. Earth appreciates the coalition's wisdom in this matter. Wisdom, someone called out from the crowd. Is that what we're calling fear now? Perhaps fear and wisdom are sometimes the same thing, Chen replied calmly. The Etherian representative flowed forward. The Council has voted to offer humanity a permanent seat on the Security Committee. Equal standing with the oldest species in the galaxy. That's very generous, Chen said, but we must respectfully decline. Gasps echoed through the chamber. No species had ever turned down a security committee position. It was the highest honor the galactic community could offer. Why? Zektor asked. Because we don't want to rule anyone, Chen explained. We don't want special privileges or responsibilities. We just want to be left alone to explore and grow. A regular council seat is enough for us. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Scientists from every species tried to understand how the paradox engines worked. They all failed. The technology seemed to violate fundamental laws of physics that had been considered absolute for millions of years. Some species sent delegations to Earth, hoping to negotiate for access to the technology. They were all politely refused. Others tried to spy, sending their best intelligence agents to infiltrate human space. They found nothing. If the paradox engines existed, they were hidden too well to detect. Captain Mitchell returned to Earth as a hero, though most humans didn't know exactly what she had done. The mission was classified at the highest levels. She was promoted to admiral and given command of humanity's Special Projects Division. Only she and a handful of others knew the full truth about what had happened at the border. 6 months later, Mitchell stood in a secure facility deep beneath Earth's surface. The room was small, windowless, and protected by every security measure humanity had developed. Only 3 other people were present, the absolute minimum who needed to know what she was about to reveal. The paradox engines don't exist, she said simply. The 3 officials stared at her. President Martinez was the first to speak. What do you mean they don't exist? The coalition saw the demonstration. The probe was turned to gold. The demonstration was real, Mitchell explained. But it wasn't a paradox engine. It was something much simpler and much more limited. We call it a quantum field manipulator. It can affect matter at the quantum level, but only in a very small area and only for a few minutes at a time. The power requirements are enormous. We could never scale it up to the light-year radius we claimed. Then the 12 devices hidden around the galaxy? Asked Defense Secretary Wong. Fake, Mitchell said. Broadcasting stations that emit the same energy signature as our demonstration device. They're basically very expensive decoys. If anyone finds one and examines it closely, they'll discover it's just a transmitter with no real capability. You're telling me, President Martinez said slowly, that we just bluffed the entire coalition with a piece of technology that barely works? Yes, Mitchell said. The quantum field manipulator is real. We can do everything we demonstrated, but only on a tiny scale for a brief time and with enormous energy costs. The rest was pure psychological warfare. General Patterson, the 4th person in the room, shook his head in amazement. And it worked. It worked because we sold it perfectly, Mitchell said. We showed them just enough to make it believable. We gave them a scientific explanation that sounded plausible. Most importantly, we acted like we had already won. Confidence is the most important part of any bluff. What happens when they find out? Wong asked. They won't, Mitchell said. Not for years, maybe decades. By then, we might have actually developed something close to what we claimed. Our scientists are already working on it. The quantum field manipulator proves it's theoretically possible. We just need time to make it practical. So we're buying time with a lie, Martinez said. We're buying survival with creativity, Mitchell corrected. The coalition was going to destroy our colonies. Our entire species would have been relegated to second-class status, never allowed to expand, always under threat. Now we're untouchable. No one will risk attacking us. What about the 17 scientists who supposedly know how to build these engines? Patterson asked. Mitchell smiled. They exist. They're real scientists working on quantum mechanics. They just don't know they're supposedly the only ones who can build paradox engines. As far as they know, they're working on theoretical physics with no practical applications yet. The implications sank in. Humanity had just pulled off the greatest bluff in galactic history. They had convinced thousands of species that they possessed ultimate weapons that didn't exist. There's one more thing, Mitchell added. We need to keep developing our actual defenses. The bluff won't last forever. Someone will eventually get suspicious and investigate. When that happens, we need to have real strength, not just clever lies. Over the following years, humanity used their newfound security to advance rapidly. Without the threat of invasion, they could focus resources on development rather than military buildup. Their colonies thrived. Their scientists made breakthrough after breakthrough, some inspired by their own fictional paradox engines. The galaxy watched humanity carefully but from a distance. No one wanted to be the first to test whether the paradox engines were real. The risk was too great. Even species that suspected it might be a bluff weren't willing to gamble their entire civilization on being right. 5 years after the confrontation, Admiral Mitchell retired from active service. At her retirement ceremony, attended only by those with the highest security clearance, she gave a brief speech. "We told the galaxy we had weapons that could rewrite reality," she said. "That was a lie. But we also told them we were too dangerous to attack." That was the truth. Because any species creative enough to bluff the entire galaxy with imaginary weapons is creative enough to develop real ones when threatened. We didn't win because we were strong. We won because we were clever. And in this universe, clever beats strong every time. In her retirement, Mitchell became a professor at Earth's Military Academy. She taught a course called Asymmetric Defense Strategies to young officers. Her favorite lesson was about the power of perception. Your enemy's fear of what you might do is often more powerful than what you can actually do, she would tell her students. Never let them know your true capabilities. Let them imagine you're either weaker or stronger than you really are. Keep them guessing. Uncertainty is a weapon all by itself. 20 years after the confrontation at the border, humanity finally developed a working prototype of something similar to the fictional paradox engines. It couldn't rewrite reality, but it could manipulate matter and energy in ways that seemed impossible. The technology was immediately classified and hidden away, just as humanity had claimed the original engines were. By then, the legend of the paradox engines had become accepted fact throughout the galaxy. Historians wrote about how humanity had changed warfare forever with their impossible technology. Scientists published papers trying to explain how they might work. Military strategists developed tactics for fighting enemies who could control reality itself. No one questioned whether they were real anymore. The lie had become truth through repetition and fear. Ambassador Chen, now elderly, gave a final speech to the Galactic Council before her retirement. She stood in the same spot where she had faced their hostility decades before. "When humanity first joined the galactic community," she said, "many saw us as weak, as prey. You brought 10,000 ships to destroy 3 small colonies, but you learned that strength isn't always measured in ship counts or weapon yields. Sometimes the strongest species is the one that finds another way to win." She paused, looking around the chamber. The paradox engines taught the galaxy an important lesson. That lesson wasn't about the power of impossible weapons. It was about the power of imagination, the ability to think of solutions no one else would consider. That's humanity's real strength. Not our technology, not our weapons, but our creativity. As she left the chamber for the last time, Chen smiled to herself. The galaxy still believed in the paradox engines. They still feared humanity's impossible weapons. And that fear had given humanity the time and space to become what they had always pretended to be. Too dangerous to attack. The greatest trick humanity ever pulled was convincing the galaxy that the paradox engines existed. But the second greatest trick was using that lie to become strong enough that it didn't matter whether they existed or not.